something really good, a hot topic in the news this week. He's been charged with crime. This is a show where I try to educate real stories. Thank you for watching Truth and Justice with Vivian King. We're going to discuss tonight why young people don't vote, as young people do so many other things. Participate in Facebook, participate in Twitter, Pinterest, Instagram, watch reality TV shows, keep up with their stars on Twitter. I know the college age kids do. My daughter knows more about Beyonce than she does her own mother because she's keeping up with her on Instagram. And I guess these stars tweet to their fans every day, but she'll vote because I'm her mother, but a lot of her friends don't think that's important. So I wanted to talk to the young people. Everyone sitting at the table with me tonight is in their 20s. And they're all concerned about the political fabric of America, and I think they're going to change the political fabric locally. Anyway, that is my hope and desire. So I'm going to say their names first, and then I'm going to give everybody an opportunity to talk. So I have Ali Hasanili, who is a lawyer. He practices primarily in Fort Bend County, but I'm sure he's available to come to Harris County and any of the surrounding counties. Then I have James Davidson, who works at the Urban League, and he will talk about his feelings on young people voting and what he's doing to help with that. And then I have Philippe Nassif, who's running for city council at large, position number 1, that is about to be vacated, and he will be on the ballot in November. So I guess you'll be on the ballot whenever the primary is. Is that November?
It's okay. The November general election, yeah.
November, okay. So Ali was nice enough, because he's been a guest before, to try to get some young people together to try to have this conversation. So because of that, I'm going to start with Ali. And Ali, why don't young people vote?
Well, first off, Vivian, thank you for having me back and letting me help put this together. And this all stemmed from our last conversation when we were talking about Ferguson, and we were talking about why don't these kids come out and vote at all? And I started to answer the question, but of course we had more pressing things to discuss. So I figured this deserved its own discussion, and of course, instead of coming at it from a standpoint of why don't young people vote, it's why don't we vote? And I really wanted to bring people who could shed some light for not only your viewers, but really people who don't understand our generation and the issues we face and how it is very different from previous generations. And I think the first place to start is talking about our education, okay? One of the biggest differences, and one of the things I hear all the time from people is, you know what, we paid for school, we don't understand why you guys are doing what you're doing, I worked. Well, here's the thing. Okay, if you go to public school, even public school in Texas, okay, it's not just tuition. Tuition is $20,000, and let's just face it. If you're going to
public college, go to college to a public school like UT or University of Houston is $20,000 a semester or $20,000 a year?
$20,000 a year, roughly. There's exceptions, of course. Some are cheaper, but if you
approximately,
really, you're looking at a growth rate. Tuition is increasing at a rate of about 4% per year. So for a private school that I went to, okay, that means tuition jumped $10,000 in 10 years. Okay, it's increasing at a rate of over $1,000 a year. So even 5 years from now, you're going to have a lot of private schools that are going to be breaking $50,000. It won't be for tuition, and that's not including books. Books are another few $1,000s on top of that a semester, and you're talking about 8 semesters.
Right.
And then we got board and tuition. You got to live somewhere. And of course, we're in a consumer society, and you got to have a little spending money in your pocket. So really, what you're looking at is, even if you're going to a public university in Texas, to live comfortably, especially if you're like at UT and where housing prices close to campus are skyrocketing, you're still paying close to about $30,000, $35,000 a year without scholarship per year. And that's over $100,000 already for the best private school, the best public school we have in the state for a 4-year education. And then we're not even talking about grad school. We're not talking about getting your master's. I mean, I know doctors who literally, it's $200,000, and at that point, when you've never worked a day in your life, what's the difference between $200,000 and $210,000 when you're asking for loans? Let me just buy a nicer car and enjoy for whatever it is. So what does this mean, right? What this means is we have tens of thousands of dollars of debt at the age of 17, and it's only increasing during the course of our education. So let's say you're an engineer. Age of 22, you graduate, you might have $50,000, $60,000 if you're lucky in debt because you got scholarship or whatever. Then you still have to pay that off over the next few years. If you're going to be a doctor, if you're going to be a lawyer, if you're going to be a nurse, you're out there even longer. And that means those years that you're also in school are years you're not getting any, you're not working. And so that's accumulating. And so really, our generation financially is starting off at ages 28, 29, and even later into your mid-30s if you're getting doctoral programs. So because of that, we are worried about money, retirement, everything. We can't even think about Social Security when we have this debt on us already. And so when we're worried about getting our lives in order, how do we have the time to worry about society? How do we have the time to really worry about what everyone else is doing when it seems so remote and when we have things that are far more pressing to our needs? And so that's, I think, one of the biggest causes of the apathy of our generation. We would love to care, but we also need to get a job first.
That makes a lot of sense, and that's something that my generation needs to talk about, because everyone knows that college was extremely expensive, and you're very tired of hearing us talk about how cheap it was when we went to college. When I went to college in 1976, I hate to tell you guys, but it was $200 a semester for tuition. Books were another $200, and room and board was about $200 a month. So my mother was dead. I didn't have any parents. I was able to leave San Antonio at 17 and come here and she'd worked all her life and died at 50. I was about 14. I was able to finance college with my survivor benefits for Social Security, which she'd worked to put into, which was $250 a month. I could, I didn't have any clothes and I didn't eat, anything but the dorm food, but I could spend that $250 a month to pay for my room and board. And she left a little extra money too, a few $1,000s, so that could pay for my tuition. And I didn't have to get any loans for 3 years. I tried to be a grown-up my senior year and move off campus, and I got a $1,000 loan. So that's all it had to supplement this $250 a month that I got from the government to get an accounting degree from the University of Houston, where I was a cheerleader and cheered at the Cotton Bowl when we played Notre Dame, when Joe Montana was at Notre Dame. So, that's how I financed it. I would have not been, and there might have been some grants or something that was given a little amounts of money. I can't remember that far back, but I'm just telling you, I had to get $1,000, which I paid off in a year after getting out of college. So it is vulgar, the amount of money that you guys have to pay for the same education that I got 35 years ago.
And I'll just add one more thing on top of that to show how far of a disconnect it is between our legislatures and where we are.
Let me just tell you this. I'm getting a notice that in Argentina and Germany, college is free. And I also heard recently that one of the states that has gambling has free tuition. Is that Nevada or Arizona? One of the states that has gambling in the United States has free tuition to certain schools, and it's being funded by the lottery. Someone told me that this year, is it North Dakota? Somewhere in the United States, one of the states' tuition is free. It might be just the junior colleges, but it's paid for by the lottery if you're in that state.
Yeah, what I was going to say is, when I listen to legislatures and they're saying, here's our solution for student loans, okay? They talk about, they're proud. This is the crowning achievement I've heard, is we have dropped the interest rate on student loans from 6.8% to 3.4%. Here's the lie behind it. That drop only accounts for undergrad loans. It doesn't address the thousands of dollars we need in grants. It doesn't address graduate student loans in any way, shape, or form. Okay, it doesn't address the fact that you can't discard your student loans at bankruptcy, unlike any other debt. If I had $40,000 of credit card debt, I could get that discharged in bankruptcy. But my $40,000 that I used to get an education, I cannot right now.
Well, it's vulgar because we could back in the day. The bankruptcy laws changed, but we're going to get back on voting. Let's talk to James about your issue, number one issue, before we debate everybody's issues.
Well, definitely, Ms. King, I appreciate the opportunity to speak on your show. What we were talking about earlier was the fact that there's been a disconnect between our generation and our elders, our much wiser population. I remember in my household, it was a privilege and almost a rite of passage to vote as soon as you got, your age, as soon as you turned 18. All right, so for some reason, we haven't look back to our elders. I think it's a two-way street. There's been some times where we've, as millennials, have just walked away from our older generation, and there's been times where they've either been too busy or they don't know how to handle the problems we face as young people, such as our education or the different things that we're dealing with. Because we have so much access. As a group, we have access through the internet. I mean, all of us with our phones, we can connect to the world. And the problem with that sometimes is we have too much information too soon. So in terms of voting, the things that are popular and catchy, you mentioned Facebook and Instagram and Pinterest, those things kind of catch our attention. And with voting, it's not as sexy, for lack of a better phrase, where we're too far removed from, to be quite frank, people who look like me had to struggle and sometimes literally die for the opportunity to vote. And what we've tried to do, at the Urban League is close the gap between the generation who came before us and the young professionals in the community now, and show the importance and the relevance of voting. Because it may not affect us now in our pockets if we don't own homes or things of that sort, but eventually it will start affecting us. The not so fancy topics, we're gonna need to start caring. And so that's one of my main issues that I'm dealing with now.
So what is the Urban League doing, and you in particular with your role at the Urban League, doing to get young urban people to vote?
Right. Well, in terms of voting, so what we decided, and I'm the civic engagement chair for the young professional group, and what we decided to do was take a step back and go back to that relationship building. I mean, part of the reason why we're fortunate enough to be on the show is because of the coalition we've kind of built amongst ourselves. So we've installed a program called Storytellers, where we have kind of the folks that we were talking about earlier with the older generation who's kind of done the field work, so to speak, come in and speak to our group, where they tell it like it is and tell it like it was. And that includes voting. So it's kind of that carrot and stick deal, where we're not just going to say vote, 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 vote. We're going to put it into our new programs that we're doing each month, really. And in addition to that, we do provide access to the voter deputy training that's going on in Harris County. We consistently have forums where we talk about education, link that to voting as well, and we do hope to have a mayoral candidate forum pretty soon here.
Okay, that sounds good. On the Storytellers, are you videotaping that? Are you keeping it in any way so that you can show that to other people?
Right, and I laugh because that's been brought to my attention many a times. I honestly, it was kind of an idea that we were just kind of mulling around one day.
Is the answer no?
No, the answer is not no. The answer is we will do that for the upcoming Storytellers. The last one we had, where we had Miss Algina Scott Davis come speak, we did not videotape that one because it was kind of the pilot program.
Sure.
But now that it was well received by the community, we had the radio stations come in and provide kind of giveaways and things of that sort. We will be videotaping it to
and
kind
I'm
of spread
saying
the
that
message.
because you need to keep your elders. I mean, Alginita is a great pioneer for women's movement. One of the first black lawyers in Houston to try to start a firm. It didn't work out with her and the ladies that they started it with. I'm still trying to do it, as Ali knows, and it's not working out with us either. But we're trying. And so she knows a lot about the community. And so you need to memorialize that in some way. for the generations to come.
Absolutely, and you know, to that point, we have a great website that we just started, a revamped. It's www.hallyp.org, where we can get tons of information out faster than the production of the video. We still are going to do the video because, like
Just
I
to
said,
keep it just for your educational purposes.
Absolutely.
Maybe not for getting out the vote or for anything, but
Right.
just because
right.
she brings a unique perspective, because she was a lot of firsts in things, and so she can tell you from whence a lot of organizations have come.
Right.
And for young people who aspire to do different things,
Right.
that energy and that history is important.
And
She
see,
knows a lot.
that's the point. That you hit the nail on the head with preservation. That's the whole point we're trying to do. Because again, I think voting, education, it all wraps into one common theme, which is preserving your legacy and building your brand, whatever brand that may be, whether it's the Urban League running or just getting voter turnout. It's important that we are able to preserve that history, because we can't know where we're going unless we know where we've been, right?
Okay, wonderful. So Philippe,
Fantastic.
talk to us. Tell us what you're thinking.
Absolutely. Well, I think we've heard a real good spread in terms of the challenges that young people are facing, not just here locally, but nationally. And I want to kind of go back to that because I think it's important not only to understand just how young people aren't able to afford a basic education and put themselves through school without going into an incredible amount of debt, but I think we should press rewind for a minute and kind of go back and look at where we've been the last 10 years as a country and as the state of young people. We had a devastating recession that frankly gutted our generation when it came to financial security and employment. We've had 2 costly wars. We've had an immense amount of young people that have sacrificed their lives, sacrificed time being with their families to serve this country and protect our right to vote, to bring about opportunities for people in other countries around the world. And they're coming back home, and they're coming to an economy that is improving. But in terms of young people and in terms of their wages and in terms of income inequality, we have gone backwards. We are now in a worse place than we were 10, 15 years ago. And that's not one particular political leader's fault. That's not several particular political leaders' fault. That's not even a political party's fault. What it is a system that has failed people of all ages in this country. And when a system fails people of all ages, it hits the young people the hardest, because when we're coming out of school and we need that support, we need those internships to be paid a lot of the times. We need those jobs with those promotions after a year of hard work and a lot of and heavy labor. And when you don't get that, you get stuck in the same position that you were in, and before you know it, 5 years have gone by, and you're sitting here and you don't know when you can start a family. You don't know when you can get married. You don't know when you can hire more people to work under you. You're just sort of frozen. And I think that's how a lot of young people feel right now in the United States and in Texas and in Houston. They feel stuck and they feel frozen, and they have now gone into a sort of defensive position where they only react and they're not proactive. And one of the reasons that has really inspired me to step up and run for office here in Houston for city council is that we don't have a lot of young people that do it. And we don't have young people that are on city council.
What's your educational background and work experience?
Sure. So I worked, I went to school at the University of St. Thomas here in Houston and got my degree in international studies. I went on to work for a nonprofit, and I started my career in community organizing, where I basically organized a lot of students, not just in the Houston area at local universities, but statewide, to basically educate their peers on important global or national issues, whether it was a genocide in Darfur or whether it was income inequality in Detroit. You know, we gave out materials for documentaries. We gave out materials for them to have sort of town halls and invite local representatives, and they talked about the issues. We basically got people engaged in the political process. And I decided to make a career out of engaging people, specifically young people, into the political process. Worked for then Senator Obama's campaign here in Houston while I was in San Antonio at grad school, where I got my degree in conflict resolution. Then went to D.C. for a few years to work for the president and then his re-election campaign before I came right back home to Houston. And I saw that we just don't have young people that are involved in the political process. And when you don't have us sort of stepping up and pushing our peers not only to vote, but to be involved in some of the issues that hit us right at home, we don't really move anywhere. And I couldn't be branded as a part of a generation that is, you know, not proactive. And so I wanted to do something about it. And actually, I think that there are many, many other young people that when they see somebody doing this and when they see some of the work that you all are doing in your communities and some of the people you've had on your show, it inspires them and it says, hey, we actually can make a difference. It's not going to cost us a lot of money. It's not going to cost us a lot of time. It just requires us to be more engaged. And that's really what I'm hoping to come out of this.
Okay, well, let me say a few things. One of the things I'm very proud of you guys for getting involved in this, because this is one of the reasons why I started this show. Ali knows this, but you two don't. And so I started it because I ran for judge twice to inspire people and to have a voice at the table, to have a minority voice at the table. I was an accountant for many years before I became a lawyer, and I don't like the cost-benefit analysis associated with crime. I think we spend too much for too little. And I think that we have a generation, and I want you guys to think about it. I realize that my biggest legacy would be to preserve what's going on in the criminal justice system. So if you cared, or if you want to know, or if you want to learn about certain issues and topics, I can have ex-cons on to tell their stories. I can talk about current events in the criminal justice system. The news is one-sided. One of the things that I'm saddened by as a 56-year-old elder, I guess I'm becoming an elder now, is that when I went to college in the 70s, people were still excited about bringing other people to the table. You know, our white brethren didn't really feel comfortable with us, but it's time for us all to sit at the same table. So let's try to do it. You know, our parents taught us not to, but you know, all the civil rights acts were in *64, so now it's '76. And in fact, when I went to the University of Houston, blacks had just really gotten in the '60s. And so there was still a lot of unrest, but we're gonna try to work this thing out. You know, society's gonna work it out. Everybody, money was flowing, everybody had jobs. The Vietnam people who had come back, society took care of them. They took care of them because, say, if Bush draft dodged, or if he did, I'm not saying he did, but whatever people, the rich people did not to go to war, they still felt guilty about it because they were supposed to go because there was a draft, and so they were going to take care of their brethren. They were going to give them good jobs when they came back. One of the things that scares me about war now is because we didn't have we're saying we have a voluntary army, and every man, let's just say man, I guess, because it was men at the time, didn't have to go to Iraq, then the richer kids could just turn their back on it and not give a damn. And unfortunately, y'all are going to have to pay for all of your friends or contemporaries who are in the army or in the military forces for a better education and better life, but not to go get killed and maimed like they're coming back. But y'all got to take care of them. But I'm worried that you're not going to have the same sense of responsibility towards them because you didn't have to go. And you didn't have to hide and not go. You didn't have to sneak and not go. You just didn't have to go. That's why the war lasted so long. If everybody had to go, y'all's parents would have stopped this. You know, people my age would have stopped this if everybody's kid had to go. It worries me because that was a huge drag on our economy that y'all have to pay for. And so let me just say this. I am excited that you're involved. And what I hope, Philippe, is that you can get a lot of your contemporaries. Don't worry about the power so much. All of y'all need to be running for things. Y'all need to be running for legislature. Marijuana shouldn't be illegal. It just should not be. I mean, that would stop half the crime. You know, and I'm not saying how to run it. I don't know anything about that. That's for you guys to work it out. You know, welfare should only be people paying for people who don't know how to get a job, for their, you know, for their children to go to daycare. Everybody who has a baby needs to be working. I don't care if they're never had a job, if their parents never had a job. There should not be a free ride for anybody. Everybody needs to contribute in this society. We don't need a society where people are all living in housing and welfare. We don't need a society where people go to have a felony on their record, so now they can't get a job, and they're 19 years old. They can't get a job. They can't get an apartment, but someone is saying, but still you better go get a job. How the hell are you going to get a job if you can't get a job and you can't get a house and you can't get an apartment? How's a young man going to feel like a man if he's ready to work now because he screwed up, but he can't get anything anymore?
Right.
I want you guys to be civically engaged and just to stop the bullcorn. I mean, somebody's got to care enough. And you see that in certain cities. I'm going to let y'all talk, but let me vent and rant for a moment. You see it in certain cities where the city government cares enough and they're not selfish politicians to actually have programs that work. You know, Houston was selfish. Kathy Whitmire wanted many years ago to do a light rail. We wouldn't do it. We were selfish, you know? And now look at the mess that we have. We had I-10, we had the railroad tracks running on the side where they could have made that light rail without messing up the traffic. But they didn't do that. I mean, you know, but other cities did. Dallas has taken the ball and run. You know, but we're slow. We're fighting about it. I mean, we're such a... I mean, Houston leadership has been so selfish compared to other big cities like San Antonio. You know, San Antonio's mayor doesn't even get paid. Well, I mean, I know the establishment did that so the Hispanics wouldn't be the mayor, but still it kind of worked because the people who were mayor back when I was a kid actually did think programs that seemed to care and not worry about their selfish pocketbooks. It scares me even more that y'all got to worry about your money now. Will you really care? You know, about the masses, because you have to worry. We didn't have to do that. I mean, we didn't. Everybody had money in the 80s. You know what I mean? Everybody had money.
To that point, I was going to say, I think all of us, because we've grown up in this environment, we've really learned to use a very common phrase, to walk and chew gum at the same time. And I mean, I think that everybody here and all of our peers that are working in our communities, they can focus on their own sort of financial security, they can focus on their own families, and they can make sure that they're helping other people too. I think you have to be just careful with your resources, and you have to be strategic in your decisions.
Y'all got to turn it back, Max.
Absolutely.
I mean, the time has gone back, but you're frozen, but y'all need to freeze, and y'all need to stop my generation that's been greedy. You know, Wall Street has been greedy. You know, everybody, I mean, universities don't have to make that much money. Y'all don't understand. Bill Yeoman, who was over, you know, U of H's football team, I used to work in the accounting department as doing student. I had to do student work study. You know, I did work through college. I had to do work study. He probably only made $40,000, $35,000, and he had a championship football team that helped build all the stuff that you see over there at U of H. Right. But now I heard that coaches at college make what?
The coaches in college,
$1 million?
In most states, especially in the South, your main public university football head coach is the highest paid public employee in your state.
Right.
Like
it depends on the region too, because there are some.
I said South. That's why I said South.
I know, but then it depends on that region too, because Deep South is a lot different than over here in Texas.
And that affects college tuition. You know, I mean, all of those salaries that are so high. Right. And I understand salaries have to be high because the economy is high. But I don't know.
So that's what I was going to mention, though, in terms of like the younger generation. We do care. We do care about our brothers and sisters in the armed forces, and we do care about the issues that are going on. Ali, you made a very good point about having to sustain that job first before we can actually go to the outside, to the masses. But there are a lot of coalitions in the city of Houston that do want to see Houston move forward and want to move us out of that kind of drudge of being so lackadaisical in our leadership efforts. I mean, I learned from a leadership class that I'm a part of that it's always been kind of quiet in Houston, but with the things going on nationally, in Ferguson and all sorts of different issues, homeland security, things of that sort, we are more aware. It goes back to that access that I spoke about. So we're not just connected here at this table in Houston, but we have friends in New York and in Kentucky and Florida and all those places. So we're caring now, but I think you're going to see in the next coming months and even years with you running, and you're going to see a change of the old guard to the new guard. I think you'll see that.
Right.
It's time.
But I mean, the other problem we have is.
But listen, y'all need to run for commissioners' court. I mean, those commissioners have been
there
for
for
100 years. I mean, they've been there since they were your age.
But Vivian, the other issue is, okay, we do care, but you have to understand that with the age of technology where it is, we're also very cynical because we're hammered with so much information constantly, and the most information we hit is sensationalized and negative. I mean, And it's depressing when you're the target, too, of the sensationalized and everything. I mean, if you're going to be a Muslim American living in America, and all you see on the news is ISIS this, ISIS that, this, oh, ISIS, there's a shooting, oh, we suspect this. Just suspect, we don't know for sure, right? I mean, it's like your standard police report. It was a between 6'5" African male in his young 20s and 30s, whatever. Like, there's that profile, and it's constantly there in the media now. And what that does is, for me, I shut off the TV. I cannot watch news. I do not watch CNN. I do not watch MSNBC. I do not watch Fox News especially, but I don't watch any news. The only source of news that I am going to allow myself to see is going to be articles that my friends post, or, I'll face it, Jon Stewart, Stephen Colbert, and now Larry Wilmore. Why? Because the way we are so cynical that the only way sometimes we can even are willing to absorb information is through entertainment.
Right.
And that is a huge thing that a lot of people, and I've seen this in all the campaigns I've worked on, they don't understand the importance of entertainment in addition to information. Not sensationalized entertainment, but we're talking about give us something to feel good about in this era of constantly depressing information that we are bombarded with.
So just real quickly, here's another way where we can combat that. I agree with you with kind of turning off the TV, but what's the next step after you turn off the TV? To go outside and join different organizations, being a part of the actual groundwork, whether it's the Urban League or whoever. When you kind of link up with counterparts, people who think outside of the box and not just a narrow focus of thought, you enhance yourself, right? And by enhancing yourself, you enhance the community around you. So I'm a very big advocate. If we don't like what we're hearing on the news, either write the news ourselves or let's go out and create the news.
And that's what I believe. I want you guys to write the news yourself. When I don't watch the news either. I haven't watched it since my daughter was 2 and she's 20, because she would cry when she saw the news. It was like a horror story, and that's when I realized it was a horror show. Yeah. It's a horror show. She would cry when I turned it on. I was like, this is a horror show. Let me turn this off. It's foolishness, especially in a criminal law. I'm going to see it anyway. So, but what I want y'all to do is I want you to control the narrative. So that's what I tried to do. When I'd hear just one side that the media portrayed, I said, well, I can tell the other side.
But how are we going to control the narrative? See, here's the other.
Control your narrative.
We create it. We create the demand too, though.
I agree, but I'm gonna, once again, I'm a lawyer, so I got to be cynical, right? It's our profession.
Yeah.
But you know, I think my colleagues here can attest to this, and this is any young person faces this. I mean, I'm sure that you, when you were young, faced this, and this is that old guard, new guard that James was talking about, which is, you know what? People want us, our energy, our creativity, our energy, whatever, for their purpose, whatever. And then as soon as we get to a certain point where we want to be in the leadership, we want to have a voice, we want to direct, then, oh, no. Now you are no longer energetic, you are ambitious, okay? The phrasing turns, and sometimes there are people who help you, and then at that point there are going to be people who start stopping you. And that's not just for us, but you see it's even more pronounced in politics.
Right.
Yeah, well, and I've experienced that directly. I mean, because as a 29-year-old running for city council, it shouldn't be that novel of a thing. I mean, you mentioned something that I've actually spoken a lot about when it comes to Dallas being ahead of Houston and Austin and San Antonio. Politically, they are too.
Right.
They have young people on city council younger than all of us.
Right.
I think they have a 24-year-old now, just got elected in Austin. And these folks there's a pipeline and an infrastructure, a political infrastructure to nurture young leaders and to bring them into office. Because that is the future. I mean, we have representatives that have represented Houston for so long in order to allow me to eventually step up and give back.
And Houston's attitude is, wait your turn. Where in San Antonio, I haven't lived there since 1976, but my aunt, who's not very educated, is 80, late 80s, I don't know, she's the only relative left in my family. They know who the DA is. They know, I mean, the DA doesn't say the DA until they retire in
Right.
public office in San Antonio. Every 4 to 8 years, they get a new one in. People are engaged. Black people, poor people are engaged, and it's only 5% black there, but people know who people are there. That's what I'm saying. That's why I thought San Antonio must have a more educated public school system, because we actually, Lila Copper, our mayor used to come to the schools, even the little black schools, before integration. Integration came when I was in the 6th grade, but she came when I was in the 3rd grade, because I was the speaker for my little school. So the mayor came. People were civically engaged as little kids. Do mayors go to schools now and talk to kids?
Some of them do. I'm sorry, that goes back to the bridging the gap component that I was talking about.
Right.
It's all encompassing. Voting as a youth is important, but your aunt probably told you the experiences about voting and education, and then that pipeline. I'm also right along there with you with building that pipeline.
Well, let me ask you this, since we're going to go fast on this.
Okay.
How can you make a 25-year-old vote in the rain? Why is it not important to you? Why is it that, well, I guess I want to ask you why, but y'all really already answered it, because I was frustrated knowing that you won't take off work because your job, instead of looking up the law and saying, employer, you can't do this to me. But I think y'all are worried about those student loans. We had more of that civil rights thing in us. We weren't the ones marching, because I was born in 58, so I'm not a part of that, the marching group, but the ones that were born in 48 were, so I was still a little girl watching the teenagers march and do all the, the little sit-ins that were going on. I was watching it, but I was younger. I wasn't old enough to do it. But for me,
but also,
I would make the ultimate sacrifice. I would make the ultimate sacrifice. I would get dogs on me if I needed to, because I saw it being done. But
also from a young
lawyers,
person, from a young person's standpoint, okay, if I'm listening to the policies of our current officials and what they're talking about, they are not talking about it's the same thing. They're not talking about anything different. If I vote for one versus the other, it's the same thing. Because everyone cares about two things, okay? Everyone's talking about jobs, 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 but we're not getting those jobs.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
Because we're not educated and we don't have the education background to get those jobs.
Or we do, but not the experience.
Oh, right. And that's the other killer.
Yeah.
Right? If I go and open up that classified ads, I'm a new graduate, we're looking for blank person, 2 to 3 years experience. Well, I don't qualify. And then, it's a great point, James. And then the other thing about it is, what are the issues they're talking about? They're talking about all these social issues, which more or less our generation has a consensus on.
And the social issues are just red herrings, so that the rich people can still do what they want to do. It has nothing to do with anything. Let's take one call. It looks like we have a call, and thank you for breaking up the monotony. Caller, you're on.
Yes, good evening, everyone. Ali hit it. He hit it on the head.
Ali hit it on the head. All right.
All right.
Go Ali.
What he was just saying about, as far as the issues for the young people in voting. The reason why they're not voting, because it really doesn't affect them. I'm gonna tell you, the last politician locally or nationally that really touched the youth was Obama. Mm-hmm. Obama went straight to him, and that's why he got the edge, and that's why he actually got pushed over the top. And then he rewarded them. He rewarded them in different aspects, as far as like when he passed this bill, the Obama. They call it Obamacare, but I can't think of the name of Affordable Care Act.
Affordable Care, yeah, Affordable Care. You call it Obamacare. I think he embraces it.
Yeah.
Now.
Yeah, but that's ridiculous. I don't like that. I don't like that name they put on it, because that's not the name of it. Because when they said and it's in the news today, they finna try to get rid of that now.
Yeah, the Supreme Court.
What do you think we can do? I've run for judge, and I've begged everybody to vote, and now I want to stand on the sidelines and help the young people, like the people here, and that's why I do this forum. But what do you think we can do, and you can do, and we can all do to try to help young people vote? What's your thoughts?
They got to put some out there for them to vote for. Like you said, the issues that everybody run on have nothing to do with them directly. So
and I guess what young people need to understand is not instantaneous, because you can vote and get one person in, but say like if all the young people vote and get Philippe in, and he talks about the young issues, everything that body still takes a majority to run. And so that's what people didn't understand about Obama, and they're disappointed because
But here's
People
the
You
thing.
have to communicate. You have to communicate that. You have to manage expectations. You have to communicate that to people very clearly. And I think young people get
I think
that.
a lot of minorities were mad at Obama because they were like, well, he didn't do anything, because they thought, because they weren't educated on the political process in grade school like they should have been, and like we were in San Antonio, they didn't understand that Congress makes the laws. They didn't understand that the president is supposed to be the leader and people are supposed to listen to what he's saying because he's researched it. But they didn't understand. And a lot of people still don't understand that Congress is you gotta know who's in Congress.
Right. And with
hold on. No, okay. So let's make our caller make one more comment, and then we're gonna get back to our spirited educational debate.
Okay. Well, real quick, Obama, he did pass some laws for the young people. A lot of it, like even what I was talking about with the Obamacare, young college kids were able to stay on their parents' insurance.
Yes, that was very important.
Yeah.
Yes.
And he did other things educational-wise with
that
schools
is my health insurance.
Right.
So he
did.
And he engaged them also. He went and talked to them. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. They don't do that. These local politicians, and they want them to vote, but it's a disconnect because they don't come and engage and talk to them. And tell them what it is.
Well, we appreciate you, and everybody.
We all agree with you.
Everybody is amen in you, and that's why I have them here, because I do care about young people, and I am convinced, and I know you're going to do your part, right? Okay, he hung up.
And I appreciate Philippe. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
And I appreciate Philippe because one thing that his candidacy does do is, even when he wins, hopefully, is that suddenly when you have someone young who got in and got carried in on the young vote, that's when everyone's going to start caring about youth issues and young people. That's when we're going to be started taking seriously. And right now, the political climate is such that we're only focusing on racial or ethnic kind of groups and communities. But you know what? If young people vote as a block, we can outvote every other block currently.
Right. Let me see if we have another call. Caller, if there's another call holding, you're on. Please state your comment.
Yes, I'm calling to mention in the discussion marijuana. For instance, if you're a marijuana patient, you're ineligible for any other, it's hard to get an x-ray, much less your medication. They give up on you. And by the president tightening the Controlled Drug Act with Vicodin, it's out of reach of working people for the most part. So the Democrats, in my opinion, the Republicans are coming up to speed on the language of marijuana decriminalization that's coming in the future or whatever. But right now, we have this problem with patients being denied health care because marijuana was a big help for them. I'll hang up. Good show.
Thank you.
Thank you. You asked the question, building up on what you said about how we get these young people to go out and vote in the rain. And it's sort of what we've been talking about here and what the previous two callers mentioned, and it's going to the young people, getting these elected officials when they're either campaigning to go to the young people. It's lazy just to put up a Pandora ad or a Facebook ad. You can reach young people in those ways.
Facebook anymore.
Yeah, we can reach young people in those ways.
Promise me this. Promise me, guys, that you will put up some informational things. And this, let me tell you what frustrated me when I ran for judge the last time. I think it was 2012. My niece, who went to the University of Houston, you know, obviously she's trying to get as many people to vote for her aunt that's a Democrat running. And she told me that morning, I was on the ticket with Obama the last time, and she told me when she voted, she said, Annie, I voted for you, but all the stuff that was coming around to the U of H's students, the U of H's Twitters and emails or whatever, was that bad information. She didn't say it was bad. I'm just telling you it was bad. If you vote straight ticket Democrat, you won't vote for Obama or something. Or if it was something that was a lie. Right. It was something that was a lie. And so how do you counter that? So now my niece is sending out. So nobody voted for me, you know, because they only voted for Obama or something. They didn't do the group, and you know we're down ballot, so you know people don't know who we are.
So to that point though, with the politicians, it is a sense of laziness and a sense of apathy. But I'm someone who likes to have some skin in the game, so I'll take onus. politicians, people running, will go to those who will vote, who have a long-standing trend of voting. If they see that young people aren't voting, they're not going to go to young people. And one other point I wanted to make, this isn't just a millennial issue.
Not what I did, though.
Right.
That's not what I did. I'm just telling you, I didn't do that. I actually tried to engage people in going,
I agree.
Don't go to the usual suspects because they vote.
Right.
Because they vote. So I tried to make the Democratic Party. I said, y'all keep focusing on the churches, this. That's cool.
Sure.
But church people's vote. They vote.
Right.
I mean,
So
that's
why I'm
not
saying
there.
it's a two-way street.
That's not going to get you there, though.
Right.
We have to go to the people who don't vote. And that's what Obama did. He went grassroots. Everybody's vote counts. He didn't go to the usual suspects. He didn't go to just the churches and just go to the universities. He engaged cities door to door. Everybody. That's like everybody's vote count. They didn't miss a person. If you didn't want to do it, you didn't have to do it, but they were there for everybody to talk to.
So that's untapped potential, and that's where I was going with that statement, where they typically go to those who vote, but at the same time, if you have a candidate with foresight to see how young people do care, we do want to vote, we do want to be a part of the political process, then you will have somebody like President Obama, and you will have candidates who do want to run and make effective change. And it starts with the young folks.
And adding a layer to that too, because you hit the nail on the head. You have to realize how much Houston. I mean, just talking about Houston, how much Houston has changed. This city is like the most diverse city in the country. We have people from all over the world that have immigrated here. We have people from all over the country that have moved to Houston over the past 10, 20 years. And even over the past 5 years, we've grown tremendously.
But our voting patterns are the same.
Our voting patterns are the same, and the way we campaign is the same.
Right.
And,
our voting
this
patterns
campaign
are the same.
that I'm running is going to be very different. It already has been. Because we're going to go to all the temples and all the synagogues and mosques and all the cultural festivals. We're going to be out there, because you can go to the Democratic clubs, Republican clubs, and do the regular thing, but you have to be able to bring people into the political process. Right. Our current elected officials, some get it, most don't. And a lot of the candidates are kind of starting to figure that out.
You're starting off the tough road, though, with the at-large.
It's a tough road.
Instead of going just in your
That
neighborhood.
is how I like it.
Yeah.
That's how I like it.
But even then, I mean, even if you go to all these cultural groups, right? Okay, I have no idea what your fund amount is, okay? But in every campaign I worked on, there's still the strategy, the actual strategy of how do you go and attract voters is what? Let's call their home line, their landline. Guess what? I've never picked up my landline since I was like 6 years old, okay? I doubt your kids have ever picked up the landline, okay? We definitely don't check our mail and look at mailers, but that's where all the money goes to. Okay, and then politicians. I see these campaigns. Let's hire social media consultants, and they pay thousands of dollars to people who say, you should send an email at 11 a.m. and 2 p.m. because that's right before they go off for lunch and after lunch. And I'm just thinking to myself, couldn't you just ask your son or daughter, your niece, your nephew, come on, why are you wasting so much money on that? And even then, you're buying the ads, but you're not understanding the aspect. Just because your name is in front of us all the time, we are a generation that's been bombarded with ads in addition to just the news and everything. We have just showing something nice and shiny isn't going to catch our attention anymore. Right. And so you need to engage us in a way that we want to be engaged. And that's where, we were discussing this earlier, there has to be the entertainment app, okay? Listen, if Kim Kardashian goes on and says, I think that all of you need to vote, guess what? There's going to be a bump of like 2-3% of people voting in with that venue.
Honestly, though, I find that is reality, but I find a problem with that. I believe that, kind of going back to turning off the TV, we have to be able to decipher what's good for us mentally. The same way we are trying to be healthy, we need to put in our mind what's good and what's going to be healthy for us. So part of having all this access to information, we have to be able to discern the issues that we should care about and the issues that is, quite frankly, garbage. And it's a burden that we have as the millennial generation, but it's an important task because when we do get older and are in those leadership positions, that'll help us face kind of the new challenges that are right now unforeseen.
So James, let me ask you this then. What are the ways that you discern that information? Okay, and I understand how you do it for yourself. Mm-hmm. Okay, but let's face it, most of your friends probably don't care about politics.
Right. Well, they do because they're my friends.
Great.
But I got you. No, I see your point. No.
But so like, how do you help people who may be apathetic, the majority of a generation who don't have the time or the willpower to read every article, pay attention to every story locally and nationally, how do you help filter that information for them?
So two quick things. The first thing is how you carry yourself, number one. Okay. And my biggest thing is mentorship. So to go backwards a little bit, when I was president of the NAACP chapter at the University of Kentucky, I had a mantra of each one bring one. I didn't care who you are, what you look like, but if you are in my group, go find somebody who has no idea what the NAACP is all about. And they would bring people. They would bring people that looked like them, or they would bring people that didn't look like them. But in that dialogue, I brought new information to them. So going to mentorship, the generation behind us, I don't want to say they're lost yet. But, okay, I had to pause myself. I had to pause, right? But what we can do is find somebody that you can pour into, and again, give them the right stuff. So another quick example. When we did some community service recently, and we're supposed to talk to some young people, 16, 17 years old, not just about the importance of voting, but how to develop a personal skill set. So me walking in, I was dressed similar to this. They're not going to listen to me. I'm a suit. Even though I haven't hit 30 yet, I'm still an old person. So the first thing I asked them was, what music are they listening to? That got them going. I mean, they were listing plenty of artists. But once we talked about that, then we started talking about some of the more heavier stuff, the voting and the being an upstanding gentleman if you're a guy and conducting yourself as a lady. So mentorship, to answer the question succinctly, is important, because as we've had Ms. King give us an opportunity, we have to reach back and do the same.
Absolutely. Okay,
so Philippe, are you going to try to reach the young people with any music?
Absolutely. I myself will not be doing any singing.
Or rapping.
Or rapping.
You might need to. You might need to get you a beat. I need to rap you a song out on a beat.
Oh, well, anybody with recommendations, let's make it happen. So, but, it's a good point. It's a good question, because we have to make sure, young people want to see somebody running, and they want to see somebody in office that they can relate to. Mm-hmm. And I've already seen, just me getting into this race for city council, young people getting a little bit more activated than they normally would be for a municipal race.
But one of the things, let me interrupt you. One of the things I like that you said is managing expectations. We want to excite them, but educate them. That's why I want to have an educational show. I want people to understand that getting involved doesn't mean that that's the solution.
Sure.
That means that that's just the beginning of the process
yes.
of everybody getting involved. And that's what upsets me so much in a lot of even debates with people my age with Obama and a little younger, my age not, but maybe in the 30s or 40s, because they expected for him to solve everybody's problem. It's just a part of the process.
And you have to be straightforward with people. I mean, as a candidate, you have to tell them there are things, people say, well, look, we need an elevated train over I-10. I was like, that sounds great, but city council, that's not good. That's not a city council thing. I'll be honest with you.
Right, that's not
I can convene people, we can talk about that, but that does not mean that I'm going to tell you that if you vote for me, then I'm going to make it happen.
Right.
You have to manage expectations.
Metro is
and
in
that process, when you're running, most people can't name their city council member or what district they live in, and so you're giving a civics lesson.
You have to.
And you have to do that, and
you have to make the civic lesson interesting.
Exactly.
Right. And to that point, and that's I'm a very good supporter of education. I believe in it wholeheartedly, and I would like to get back to educating them on the voting process and other civic issues while they're in school before they're eligible to vote.
Exactly.
PBS has a democracy project. I would love to see that out in Fort Bend, where I live, whether that's the school board or other elected officials do, because you're malleable at that age group where you can say, if I see somebody in front of me that is entertaining and exciting, and then they kind of give me that voting information or civic lessons, then I internalize that. And so when I am of age at 18, I'm going to be raring to go. I can't remember the statistic, but where young people vote the highest percentage is at 18. And then there's a drop-off from like in the 19 to 20s. And then once we get into the careers and trying to pay for loans, I don't even want to think about
the issues.
Now we have 4 minutes, guys. So let me just say this.
Sure.
I want to say this to you, and I'm going to give everybody a minute to wrap up. please consider the educational pieces and the cost-benefit analysis, and someone running in the legislature. Y'all need to start running for all the positions and get these old people out. You need to get them out. If they've been there more than 20 years, or if they're retirement age, we need some new blood. We need to spend our money in a different way. Texas is one of the biggest taxpayers to the United States government, but yet we had a governor for all these years that would reject federal money.
Right.
So they can go to all these little states that are not paying the money, because why? We're not educated enough to understand the cost-benefit analysis of even our federal United States tax dollars. You don't want it to come back to us, so you let it go to other states. The same thing happens with our city taxes and all of our taxes. So please keep that in the equation in your educational piece, and go ahead and make your wrap up.
So I guess with my final minute, I just want to say once again, thank you. And
you can come back.
Yes.
This is just March.
So
we can make another one in June.
So with the people at this table, it's clear that we care. We clearly understand. We're trying to understand, and we're doing our part to make a difference, and for whatever it is. And what my request is for your generation and everyone else is, one, we need support, okay? And more than anything, we need support financially, whether it's giving us jobs, giving us, helping us with our new businesses, entrepreneurship, you know, even if it's helping us with, oh, you want us to run? Well, tell us how we're going to get the funding necessarily to do a campaign where we can reach out and do it. We have the ideas, we have the initiatives, but what we really do lack, because of the debt and everything I outlined earlier today, is we really don't have the funding.
Okay, so we'll talk about that. And you know I'm trying.
Yeah.
You know, my building, I'm going to give y'all fundraisers. So you know I'm doing my part. That's one of the reasons why I wanted the building, and I wanted Tina to do it too, is to give y'all what nobody gave me. So I'm going to do my part, but we'll keep it going.
Okay. And again, Ms. King, I would say thank you. One of the things I'd say is the campaigns are coming. So I do believe, you know, we do have that passion to run. I'd also say, in terms of what we can do, join civic organizations. If you're a young person and you want to branch out or get out your shell, or you're tired of just going back and forth to work, join a civic organization. Write down 3 goals or 3 passions that are important to you, that you want to see changed. I guarantee you there is an organization here in Houston for that. And the last thing I'd want to say is just bridge the gap. Call an aunt and relative, or find a mentor at your job. Continue to...
I have to cut you off, James.
Okay.
Okay.
All right,
Absolutely.
that's it.
Well, that's all good stuff. I just want to thank you again as well, and I want to thank my friends that are here that shared all of their viewpoints on getting young people involved. And you know, I ask all of the viewers that are watching the show and that always watch your show to stay engaged, to step up in this upcoming election here in Houston, and to step up again in 2016, and to don't sit down until we get everybody where we need to be.
So I'm going to invite these young people back whenever they want to come, either May or June. Ali, I'll get you to organize that again. And I want y'all to, this is your homework. I am here for you, okay? But I am a poor, single woman, but I'm here for you, so I give you this, this format. But tell me what you've done in just the next few months, okay, about getting people more involved. I'll report to you what I've done. I'll continue with the shows. I'm continuing. I haven't, my party room where I'm going to give the fundraisers probably won't be ready till the end of the year, because I ran out of money on my house project. It has like a garage apartment, so I'm planning on giving fundraisers because no one did that for me. I shouldn't say no one, but you know, very few people did it for me, let's say that. So I'm going to do that for you, okay? And I think other people are. I'm going to try to do a pack so we can do that. So we're going to report back on what we've done to get more people involved in the next few months, okay? So we're going to do that? All right. Thank you for watching Truth and Justice with Vivian King. I know no one told their story tonight, but this is the story of the time. This is what we need in our society to make Houston better. You know, this is the year for city council elections. We need to get more civically engaged so that we can use our tax dollars properly, and we have the right people. We need young people and older people on city council to engage new ideas to take us into the future. So thank you for watching the show, and we'll see you next Wednesday. Good night. Thank you for tuning in again. Tonight we have something really good, a hot topic in the news this week. He's been charged with a crime. This is a show where I try to educate.